I waited a long time to make this video because this piece means a lot to me. I still remember the first time I've heard it. It was my first year at the Academy of Music in Gothenburg, and it was the first piano group lesson, so like the second week of the semester or something. We all sat there and my teacher, Bernd Wilhelmsson, asked who had anything to play. And everybody kind of sat still and looked away because you don't have so much prepared the second week in the semester. But then after a while, the only last year student, Lasse, he kind of got up, shrugged his shoulders and said, I can play what I played last semester when I did exchange studies in Israel. I worked on some Brahms. And he sat down at the piano and he played this piece, and it was the most beautiful piano music I had ever heard. It's part of Brahms's late piano works. He has 4 opus, 116 to 119, that he wrote in his older autumnal years. And these piano pieces are so rich and so full of memories, nostalgia, love and sorrow, regret, and everything exquisitely blended together in many layers and nuances. And there's a total of 20 pieces. And as always with Brahms, it's only absolute music, so no painting titles like in Debussy or anything. So only musical titles, and 14 of them have the title Intermezzo. The word means just between, and originally it was used as like some music in between larger parts of like an opera or incidental music. But in the 19th century, the instrumental intermezzo kind of evolved and turned into its own type of piece that can stand on its own. A bit like the prelude also evolved from a smaller piece to a bigger piece that can stand on its own. But I think the intermezzo is more to the slower side. So almost like a nocturne, but not with the same associations as a nocturne has. An intermezzo can be more free in some ways, I think. And every single one of Brahms's intermezzi dives deep into the human psyche and explores complex emotions and dispositions. And still this one, the A major of Opus 118, stands out as the most lovely, the most tender and sensitive and forgiving. There is a middle section here in F sharp minor with some sorrow and pain, but then the main section in A major returns, and it's like it's saying a lot of things happens, but in the end everything will be alright. And we'll see how Brahms makes it alright with the help of some major 7th chords, deep bass notes and yearning suspensions. So the melody starts right away with like the main motif of the piece. This yearning leap up. And the harmony is kind of an unstable D major in second inversion, with this deep bass note for the atmosphere. It's a A major and the upbeat. Same chord. And that's the antecedent part of the phrase, and then the consequent part is closing it and kind of resolving this instability a little bit to an E major with some really smooth chords. Then we get the same motif again, but with different harmony. So, but now it's so rich. It's first going from E major, from major to the G natural, but just for a moment. And now it's the D major, but it's now in first inversion, and the bass goes down here. And now this is the the second accidental after the G natural, we get D sharp. This is B major 7. It's pointing towards E major, so it's now the consequent part of the phrase resolves more firmly to E major. And it reaches more stability here the second time. So now we get a kind of a repeat of these two parts. They're pretty similar, but there's a little bit of variation in the harmony, making it even richer. And also it's pianissimo, so you can take the opportunity to really go down and let the atmosphere speak for itself in a way. Also, by the way, the texture, we always have these eighth notes kind of in between, filling out the chords and making the music move forward, even in this soft pianissimo. So here's the variation. The first time it's just simple chords. The second time it's more, it's a diminished, and the suspension, so lovely and lush. And now the final time, it's another variation. We get the B7 now. So the first time it's, second time it's, we get this, the B sharp. It's, if this is an A major 6, it's the minor third, or rather the sharp second. So that's like 4 phrases of the first part. Now we get the second motif, the secondary motif of the piece. It's really simple core motif, just a neighbor note of a second. But immediately Brahms makes it super interesting with an exotic, exciting shift to the mediant. So from E major, go to C major. You keep the E in the bass, so it's in first inversion, but it's from a distant key, mediant. And then we start to change these notes kind of chromatically. So from C major, it goes to change the C to C sharp, get the diminished, and then continue upward to go. We change it to a D and we change the G to G sharp, so we get E7. So let's do the whole phrase. And I would say that it resolves to an A because of the bass goes to A in the bass, but like the melody and the other voices, they haven't left E7, so it's an E7 over A. But it's kind of resolved anyways. By the way, the rhythm here is one of those things, because if you only hear it and don't know what the score looks like, it sounds like it's on the beat and like a hemiola now. But it's not written like that, it's written offset on the bars. But it's very hard to hear it like this. Like, you shouldn't play it like that either. The point is that Brahms uses this ambiguity to kind of get loose from the firm structures of the beats. Anyway, after this E7, we go again, a mediant, switch from A to F major, and same chromatic. And now it expands, the bass goes down in thirds and the melody goes up. Actually, this motif, it starts as a second, then it's expanded to a minor third, and then it reaches higher. And also the final chord is a lot of tension. Now, so it's the A minor in the left hand and G sharp, it's the major 7, super dissonant. So when the resolution counts, it's nicer in E major. Now the music gets moving a bit more. We get an increase of the supply of chromaticism, but the bass note stays as a pedal point on E. So it's kind of opposing forces, driving forward but staying. Really interesting mix. Finally, the bass moves as well, and well, it's just going chromatically, and then in the end the melody morphs back into, it's the main motif, but it's kind of a little bit offset rhythmically, and also it comes with the harmony of a D major in root position. And the first time it's always this kind of half stable second inversion with the A in the bass. Now we get it in D major and these thick chords in the middle. And now we get something interesting. Now we get this. So it's actually the motif in the bass. A little entry statement there, and the melody just a scale down. It's so like relieving, and also these suspensions of seconds, they are part of the kind of core motivic material. It's not really a motive in itself, but they are all around this piece, these suspensions. This is a magical place. So Brahms just switches from the major mode to the minor mode, and it's exactly the same but also different. Suddenly more sober and serious. And Calando is dying and catching a breath to take in this seriousness. But then immediately it's a contrast to that, from the darkness to the light. So this is kind of the same as the beginning, but also not the same. This motif, it seems somewhat familiar. It's because it's an inversion of the main theme. So instead of going, you take the opposite directions, and we just start up there. And I mean, it's kind of hard to recognize maybe, but it seems somewhat familiar. And then the consequent part of the phrase is the same, just elaborated with the eighth notes here. And now we have the final part of the first section. We get back to the secondary motif again, the neighbor note second. Ambiguous rhythms, but now we have a in the pedal point. A is the tonic. The first time it's E, it's kind of in the dominant territory, and also before it uses chromaticism as a way of providing direction. Now we use only the diatonic notes and changes, and that is more stability within the key of A major. And the harmony goes down here from F minor to D to B minor 7 and kind of E7. back to A. Now we get the same, and the descent is in the bass now, F sharp, D, B to A. Very tonal, cadential progression. And this is where we get this piano lounge feeling of big arpeggios and just lush motifs in the melody. And now the final closing bars, we get the motif in the middle. And there's super low bass on E. And the very final motif, it gets a transformation. It's always this leap up, but the last time it goes down. It's the same note, but going down, really resolving properly. Now we get a middle section in F sharp minor. So the first section has been quite positive, hopeful and reassuring, even with the nuances. The middle section leans much more to the negative side and goes straight to F sharp minor. We get these super nice longer lines of melody, really wanting to explain something, but the trend is always going downward. And it's two phrases, the second time reaching higher, and the left hand has a counter melody underneath, acting as kind of a duet. So if I just play the tenor voice, it's so beautiful. So it's almost more counterpoint than harmony, but of course we also have harmony in the left hand. You can discern it's F sharp minor going to B minor and then back to F sharp minor and C sharp 7 as a dominant in the end of the phrases. Back to F sharp minor. And this suspension is like, it gets me every time. It's a D major here, the second phrase, and we have, it's just E is the 9 on D and G sharp. It's a sharp fourth, Lydian fourth, but it's a suspension. And there's a repeat here, and I think the second time it's a natural thing to do to bring out the tenor voice more than the melody, so it can be like this. And now ritardando, slowing down in C sharp 7 harmony. Kind of maybe we're going back to F sharp minor, but no, there's a contrast again. Now we go to F sharp major. And we get this amazing, another magical moment, più lento, slower, major, and it's like just a memory floating by and you're disappearing in your thoughts. Super nice counterpoint. It's actually part of the melody here. Just this falling scale, it's what comes in the tenor, but they're in canon. And then it's other things as well. And here it's the same, just in major. And with the bass. Just going around and then modulating but going back. It's super intricate counterpoint with all the voices, and like you're playing a bit thick. Now a little bit of variation in the middle voices. So you have these. It's hard to. That's not the first time, but I think they're only in the background. And again, slowing down, landing on the C#7, and now we're flipping back to minor. It's like this was just a memory. Now we return to reality, and the reality here is not very pleasant. So we get back to the middle section theme in F# minor, but now it's a fuller texture, deeper bass notes, and it's pressing and insisting, and I'm going to play the whole section here. Reaching up all the way to the high C#, and it's the highest note in the piece. No other note is up there. And then we have these suspensions again, and more chromatic leading notes, and it's the same suspension again over B minor, the 9. The melody goes all the way down to the alto or low alto register to really get the point, get it out. To the F#. And then we get these like harp entries. Lovely places, so many lovely places in this piece. So we have this big climax here, but then there's some residue that we are left with in the harmony. So we have these suspensions of seconds that going between the voices. And it's a lot of tension still, but it's only as residue. We're getting slower and softer. More to the major finally, maybe. The final residue in this dissonant chord, it's like some kind of diminished, half diminished, with the suspension going to a B7 but over E. Typical romantic chord. And we find the way back to the main motif. So here comes basically a full repeat of the first section, but the main motif theme comes only 2 times instead of 4 as in the beginning, and it's also a little bit elaborated. It's a reaction to what's happened in the middle section. It gets a little bit more persistent, stronger statements. So here it's been pianissimo after we've come down, but then rinforzando, it means keep like the dynamic up for this short time. It kind of suddenly goes back to get this statement out. And now the second time. So the leap up in the motif, it's always been like a 7. Now it's completed to a full octave. It's amazing. And dolce, sweet, I think you can really take a step back and just let it soar here. And the consequent part of the phrase is also filled out more to match this. And then we get the secondary motif. And from here on it's exactly the same as in the beginning. Nothing changed at all. Because this material is more reassuring and kind of forgiving, so we've handled all the tension and drama in the middle section, and it's been completed in the first phrases, and now we have like the most nice part, the most lush part of the piece. We get all of that again until the very end. And that's Brahms Intermezzo in A major, opus 118, number 2. If you want to play this, it's quite hard. There's a lot of inner voices going on you have to do with the hands, especially the middle section, 3 against 2, and kind of big jumps and leaps, even if it's in a slower setting. If you want to play kind of this music and don't have this level, I have made an easy arrangement as part of the Simple Solution series. You can find, I'll put a link in the description. But anyways, thanks for watching Sonata Secrets, and the Patreon shout out in this episode goes to S. Benderley and SD.